All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our November board meeting. And we've got a lot to get to tonight. First of all, I'd like to recognize Ms. Olander and Ms. Swanger from West Carteret for the pledge and invocation.
Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And actually, Mr. Self, would you have everyone introduce themselves, their name, maybe what grade they're in, and what instrument they're playing?
Hi, I'm Tia Martin. I'm in 10th grade and I play alto saxophone.
I'm Aiden Pappas, 11th grade. I play tenor sax and clarinet.
I'm Isaac Stewart, 11th grade, and I play trumpet.
I'm Zachary Pruitt. I'm in 11th grade. I play trumpet.
Anthony Morello, 12th grade, tuba.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much
Thank
for being
you.
here. And if you wait just 1 second and bow your heads, we'll have a quick prayer and then we'll let you out of here. Heavenly Father, thank you for all of our many, many blessings. Thank you for all of our hardworking employees and our dedicated students. We ask that you be with us today and always. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. All right. Brittany, are you going to amend the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I move to amend the consent agenda to add an item 6.8, consider contract for repairs to Croatan High School.
All right, the motion by Ms. Wheatley to add to our consent agenda repairs to Croatan. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, motion by Ms. Wheatley, second by Mr. Godwin. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. All right, now is there a motion to approve the amended agenda?
I will make the motion to approve the amended agenda, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Mr. Jenkins. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Godwin. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. All right, our meeting agenda is approved. All right, at this time, we'd like to recognize two very special people. Melissa and Jake, if you could step down front with me and Dr. Jackson, if you'll join me up here. Well, today is bittersweet. Jake and Melissa will be leaving today, and on behalf of our entire board and the school system, Jake, we have a present for you here. And I just want to say quickly, there's not a bigger heart on our board than Jake. He brings a unique perspective, mainly because he was a teacher before. And we always know that your heart is in the right place for the children and the employees, and your service is very, very much appreciated.
It was a quick 4 years, went by fast. 2016 election was there, and there was a lot of controversy about where I was living at that time. But once I got through that and started doing my job for the community and for the board, I've enjoyed being here, working with all these people, working with all the teachers, administrators. This has been an honor to have served this county. My father, of course, I followed in his footsteps. He taught here for 35 years, and just appreciated, helping out anybody that could be helped out and doing what was needed to be done, and I'll never forget that. I see people all the time that say, hey, yeah, I had your dad for driver's ed, I had him for geography, I had him for history. And, it kind of touches you because that's the kind of influence he had amongst the students that he taught. And it's the same way when I go around back home and where I taught, kids see me all the time and say, hey, Mr. Godwin, enjoyed your class and all. And it just makes you smile, feel good inside right here, because that's what it's all about. Teaching the children, getting them to learn, and making sure that they're provided for as far as education was concerned. And this year, of course, COVID was one of the biggest things that everybody had to deal with. And that was one of the things that, as a teacher and principal, administrators that had to work with that, it's something that you have to deal with. And we have dealt with it the best, I think, of any school system around. We've kept our kids in school, we've kept them learning, and that's what it's all about. Making sure that they are there to do what is necessary and to keep that job going. And it's been a pleasure working with 4 different leaders. When I came in, we had one superintendent that was leaving, retired. Then we hired another superintendent, and that one retired. But then we had to do another superintendent, be interim, and we've come with our last man here, Mr. Rob. I hope that we have sat down now to set you for a great situation to be in our school system and working for our children and kids here. It's great knowing you, and I was proud to be part of that community to help get you here as that superintendent.
Just stay right there between us and we'll have. So for just a little bit.
I had a 6 foot.
I'm smiling. Melissa. And Melissa has been with us for 5 years. She was appointed to a partial term and then ran for a 4-year term. And she has got some very special guests here tonight, not as many as she wanted, but because of COVID and some restrictions, they weren't all able to be here. Would you mind introducing?
Come on, you're
Okay. These are my, one reason that everyone sees me so invested in these schools is certainly because there's a legacy here, as you can see. My daughter-in-law is currently doing an internship with White Oak Elementary, and we have a 3-year-old granddaughter and 1-year-old, and more to come. My husband's been a great support, along with my daughter Elsa and our other sons and daughters who couldn't be there. Sigrid, Griffin, gosh, totally. Did I miss anybody? Thank you. But yeah, it's been a real honor and privilege to serve as a citizen. I wasn't born here. I got the privilege of serving here in the Marine Corps and fall in love with the school district and this county. And I really want to thank Miss June. Miss June can come up here too, please.
Come on, Miss June.
Miss June made quite the effort to be here. She has been my mentor through all of this. The first board that appointed me was almost 6 years ago. I got a call from David Clark, and he said, "Hey, would you like to serve on the board?" And I think one of my first questions was, "What do they do?" So I thank you for that honor and your support of me and all the board members, the former superintendents at the time, Dr. Novi and Matt Bottoms. I've learned from all of you, and I'll channel that. But thank you most of all to the students in this county, because for all of the hard work that any of us put in, they multiply the joy tenfold because of their successes. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'll just keep-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that already.
She cannot go.
And before Melissa goes, I just wanted to say, I've got a special relationship with Melissa. I look up to her. I've always admired your leadership skills, obviously your attorney background. You brought a very unique, compassionate view to all of our subjects. And I will tell you that you and Jay, part of your legacy will be bringing Dr. Jackson here, plus the bond that will benefit the students and staff and citizens for years to come. That's part of what you help build. So thank you both, absolutely. All right, some more awards. I'm going to ask Dr. Jackson to help me with this too. Our finance department, some of the folks are here tonight, and we'd like to present them with a couple of awards. And Ms. Carswell, Casey, and Libby, if you'd step up front with us, please. This is a really, really big deal, and that's why I asked Dr. Jackson if he would explain these awards to everyone.
Superstars hold those. I am incredibly excited about the opportunity, and I thank you, Mr. Godwin and Ms. Ehlers, for your very positive comments, to have the opportunity to work with an amazing school system staff from top to bottom. To be an excellent school system, we have to be excellent in all things. These two awards are incredibly special to me, to our school system, but I believe to the taxpayers of Carteret County, because what these two awards indicate to our taxpayers is that our finance department, our bookkeepers, our principals, everyone from the Board of Education throughout the school system who has anything to do with our budget is doing an amazing job of accurately reporting our financial matters to the public in a way that's transparent, in a way that demonstrates that we are excellent stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. These two awards are both national awards. I'm not aware of many other systems, if any, who've earned both of these awards. Carteret County, to the credit of the current finance staff and those who came before, has earned one of these awards for 27 consecutive years. 27 years of receiving a national award for excellence in financial accounting. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm so very proud of our finance department and of all of our bookkeepers and all those who have anything to do with our finances in keeping such a great accounting of all the finances of the school system. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. On behalf of the whole board, the finance issues are things that keep us up at night. So thank you for helping keep all those straight. It's remarkable what you're able to do. So on behalf of everybody, thank you very much.
We'll try to social distance as much as we can. Ms. Pat, you'll get
I'm
on.
16.
Those plaques, Mr. Chairman, will actually be placed in the lobby of the building because we want to make sure that all of our visitors know how carefully we do safeguard the resources that are entrusted to us.
Thank you, Doctor. All right, is there anyone signed up for public comment? No. All right, in that case, is there a motion to consider the consent, or approve the consent agenda? The amended consent agenda.
Chairman, I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as it reads now.
Motion by Mr. Godwin, is there a second? Second by Ms. Chadwick. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you. All right, another area where we excel is our arts department. And to the point that we have other districts around the state that are coming here and asking Mr. Everett how we're doing things. And Mr. Everett has done just an absolutely remarkable job communicating, putting together, organizing the department, and we can't thank you enough. And he's here tonight to update us on our arts education during COVID.
There we go. Well, thank you for giving us this opportunity to bring you up to date and to show off some of our PPE equipment that we've been using to continue to be able to sing and to play our band instruments indoors for up to 30 minutes at a time. And we're one of the few school systems that have been able to do that. And so I'm going to talk to you about that in just a little bit. But before I get to the COVID-related information, I wanted to make sure that you knew what we were all about. So in our elementary schools, we're so fortunate that we offer visual art and elementary music 1 day a week to all of our face-to-face students. And we also have virtual assignments for our 100% virtual students. Unfortunately, during the COVID precautions that we're taking, our art teachers and our music teachers in elementary schools are having to teach on a cart. And if you ever have painted and try to clean up without a sink around, or trying to make music with items that are on a cart, we know how challenging it is. And our teachers are anxious to be able to get back into their classrooms when it's safe. We are also, I said that we also are having, our teachers are, in addition to teaching face-to-face, our music and art teachers are also teaching the virtual students as well and making weekly assignments for them. In our middle schools, we have full-time art teachers and full-time band directors at each one of our middle schools and allowing for daily band and art classes. Some of the board members that have been here previously have remembered me saying that we don't have a middle school choral program, and that is a real deficit in our arts education program, and we hope that we can make that a reality in the years to come. Our high schools, behind you board members, we have student artwork from West Carteret High School. A lot of the work that you see are by some of our ninth grade students. I go to many different conferences, and last year I was fortunate enough to be able to go to the Scholastic Key Awards at Barton College in Wilson, where our art students were competing statewide. And other than the North Carolina School of the Arts, our Carteret County Public Schools had the next most winners for gold key and silver keys. And so we have wonderful art teachers at East Carteret and at West Carteret and Croatan. You've met Amber and Catherine, who led in the Pledge of Allegiance today, and they're responsible. Their students are responsible for this beautiful artwork tonight. In drama, we have one full-time drama teacher at West Carteret, and at Croatan and at East Carteret, our choral directors are part-time chorus and part-time drama. And that leads to some very fine spring musicals on non-COVID years. Visual art, I've already talked a little bit about that. Our artwork is on display at different banks and pharmacies and even out at our national parks, and our students constantly win awards statewide. Wanted to highlight these two beautiful pictures, and Catherine, I would like for you to come forward. And we have a presentation. This is Catherine Olander, one of our art teachers at West Carteret, and she has won the Seafood Festival art competition for the past 2 years, and her work has been featured on the Seafood Festival posters and on different apparel. Not only did she win the Seafood Festival, but it went on to win the National Outdoor Festivals Art Award. So she is a national winner. And Dr. Jackson.
You'll step up here with me, and Mr. Everett, if you'll step up as well. Board members, you didn't share with me when I was arriving that one of the delights of serving here is that in the ante office or the front area of my office are signed copies of this artwork. And so every day as I arrive and as I leave, I have the opportunity to enjoy this fine artwork. And earlier this afternoon, I was privy to the beginnings of an idea of what the next winter might look like next year. And so on behalf of our Board of Education, we want to recognize you for winning this the last 2 years and so well representing our school system, and more importantly, for the incredible work you do with our student artists. Thank you so much and congratulations. Absolutely.
I'm sorry, you became my enthusiasm. You got too close.
Yeah.
Really great.
our art teachers make the world more beautiful, and we appreciate what they do. We really consider our elementary music and elementary art teachers, they are our heroes. They teach children the love of music or the love of art that will last, hopefully last a lifetime. They're the entry level. They're the introduction to music and art. And I'm just so happy that this school board supports arts education and all the wonderful things that our teachers do. In normal years, we would have many elementary music programs, but due to COVID and the fact that we can't gather in large groups now, these are on pause. I don't have to talk a lot about our band programs. Our school system is known across the state and across the Southeast region for the quality of our bands. Last spring, 2 days before the state band assessment, was when we had to shut down the schools. And for the first year, all 3 of our high schools were going in grade 6, which is collegiate level music. And they were so prepared, and both our choirs and our bands were really ready. And so we won't be testing this year, but we look forward to life after COVID. Marching bands represent us and are goodwill ambassadors for the school system in the area parades, and it's just a source of pride for the school system. We really thank the Croatan ensemble tonight who performed the Star Spangled Banner, and Mr. Mike Self, the band director there. Our choirs are also outstanding, and they receive superior ratings at the state music assessments, and they represent us really well. Without a middle school choral program, our high school teachers have to really start over with our students, because our students go from the 5th grade all the way to the 9th grade without an opportunity to sing. And so we hope that we can make a middle school choral program happen in the years to come, and we look forward to great things with our choirs. Okay, tonight I wanted to show some of the PPE that we have that is making this indoor singing and indoor playing possible. And special thanks to Mrs. Carswell and the finance department for writing these grants and things for us to use state and federal funds to be able to get this equipment. A lot of schools they're not allowing their groups to sing. They're not allowing their bands to play. And we've had several team of administrators come from Watauga County, Davidson County, and New Hanover is coming soon to see the equipment that we have, and that's a real tribute to our finance department and all of you for making this happen. We have air scrubbers. Every one of our band and choral rooms have these air scrubbers, and it's with a HEPA filter. It changes the air circulation 3 times per hour. CDC suggests that we do it 2 times an hour, and these go a step further, 3 times per hour, and they're always operating whenever we are making any type of music. In addition, you see these sneeze guard partition walls. You will see in a few minutes when the East Carteret Chorus sings. Whenever we sing or play our band instruments, air particles aerosol comes out of our mouth. And that is a way that COVID is transmitted. So we spent the summer researching all the latest studies, and we came up with a plan to keep all of our students and especially our music directors safe during COVID. So you will see the directors stand behind the wall, and it blocks the aerosol from coming from the instruments and from the singing. Even with this in place, we can only sing or play for 30 minutes at a time before the aerosol builds up so much that it becomes dangerous. And at this time, we're going to invite Mrs. Joella Morris and the East Carteret Small Vocal Ensemble, and they're going to come and sing for us. We're going to position these in place. Protect everyone.
Mr. Everett, were these were not mandated. Is this something that we've come up with locally?
Well, they were manufactured. They were not manufactured here, but these were recommended as a way to be able to make music indoors.
It's great.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's Bride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood. From sea to shining sea, to shining sea.
When I arrived here a couple of years ago, Ellen Piner was a mentor of mine, the longtime choral director at East Carteret High School and a Board of Education member for many years. And we moved Joella to East Carteret to rebuild the choral program and to build the numbers back. And I know that Mrs. Piner would be real proud. Let me talk about drama. really quick. Drama is continuing, even though we cannot have performances right now. One of the final performances we did, and Tabby's not even in here, but I wanted to show you that Tabby's Sorry with the fringe on top was part of our Oklahoma production, and that our school system partnered with the community theater, and that was one of the final productions before we had to shut down for COVID. So I've told you the great things about our arts program, but now, Abby, I wanted to show you this. Let me back up.
He showed us that you jumped up in that cowboy's arms.
You're sorry with the fringe on top. Wanted you to see some statistics of the effects that COVID has had on our band and choral enrollment. And we are down almost 20% because our band students, when they found out that we were not having traditional marching band and the choral students, when they found out that we were not going to be able to do concerts, and maybe at that time they maybe didn't even know we would be able to sing indoors, our enrollment dropped. And I've got it broken down by each school. And I think our choral programs will bounce back quickly once we are back in business. But it's going to take years for the bands to recover. You'll see some of our band programs are down 35%, 20%. And so that's a whole generation that is going to be affected if we lose our beginning band classes or half the sizes that they are in normal years. So it's going to take us a couple of years to rebound, but we have wonderful band and choral directors and who've committed to what they're doing, and they will bring it back quickly. But I wanted to share that with you. So goals for the future. If you missed it the first 3 times I've said it tonight, we need a choral program. And a couple of years ago, we found some money that we were going to be able to hire middle school choral teachers, and then Hurricane Florence came and our enrollment dropped, and we lost all these teaching positions. And of course, you can't add positions when you're losing positions. But these are some of the things that we want to strive for in the future. Digital music, recording technology, mixing, production studios. That is a real big thing now. We've actually have alumni living in California that are working in music studios, and that's something that we would like to see happen in the years to come. We have funding from our school board, from our county commissioners, and we still have a lot of private benefactors. We do a lot of grant writing. The Big Rock Blue Marlin charitable organization brings in the North Carolina Symphony for our 4th graders every year, and then we work with a lot of other partners to bring the arts to us. And everything is not about a test score, and it's important for us to develop both sides of the brain, and we need beauty in our lives, and our students need to know how to feel, and they need to know how to share their emotions and make magic. So we like to think beyond the bubbles, and thank you for your for offering me this opportunity.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Everett?
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Everett, we are just incredibly blessed to have you in this county leading this effort, and I can't say enough good things. So thank you for what you do, and thank you to all the folks in the arts department. So. And I feel so badly for Blair. He follows the most fantastic presentations all the time. So, Mr. Probst, we're glad to have you, and you have some policy for second reading.
I have got to start lobbying for better position on this agenda, on every agenda, it seems like. For second read, as my parting gift to Ms. Ehlers and Mr. Godwin, there's one policy on for tonight for second read, and there are no policies on for first read. So you're welcome. And that just means next month we'll bring in 30 or 40 policies that you will have missed. So for second read, again, this is just a policy that reflects a change in the legislation that was requested by this board to mirror the district lines for the board members with those of the county commissioners. We sent that information to the General Assembly. General Assembly ratified the law, and this revision to the policy is the work of that. It reflects that change. There were no edits to the policy since first read. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Probst?
I do. So if it ever changes with the commissioners, then change there, we will also follow suit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Other questions? Is there a motion to accept the policies as presented?
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Ehlers. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Godwin. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Great.
Thank you so
very
much.
Mr. Probst. Appreciate you being here. And I am not forgetting the finance department, but Mr. Oliver, could we get your update before we jump to the finance, if you're prepared? This is Mr. Oliver updating us on the Carter County Public School Foundation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. As you know, many of you know, I'm really pinch hitting for Joe Barwick, who has left for higher ground. The Carteret County School Foundation was founded in 2000, and it has been active since 2010 as a 501c3 nonprofit. All donations are tax deductible as allowed by law. The mission of the foundation is to support the students, educators, schools, and education programs of the system. The foundation focuses itself and its activities on enriching education for all students, supporting faculty, and encouraging support of public education by securing funds for innovative projects that cannot be funded by local, state, or federal dollars. Individuals can give to the foundation as a designated or undesignated gift. Each gift helps the foundation grow and addresses needs that fall in the gap between what the local, state, and federal funding provides and what it does not. Some of the programs and projects the foundation has supported include student scholarships for summer science and math programs, robots for robotic teams, laptops, carts and printers, new book collections, and therapeutic play equipment. Support of the Hill Center teacher training was very important and something the foundation itself was very proud of. Since 2010, the foundation has collected and administered $1.4 million. Total contributions in 2019 and 2020 to date were $238,000 and $54,000 respectively. There's no paid staff. So 100% of the donations are invested back in our students and staff. One of the greatest blessings has been the nearly $420,000 generously contributed in response to the needs of financial assistance in the system community caused by Hurricane Florence. The hard work of Tabby Nance and Brad Piner in administrating these funds deserves special recognition and thanks. The 12-member board, volunteer board, remains committed to the oversight of this support and the district. Thank you for your continued support of the foundation. Mr. Chairman, if I can answer any questions, I'll do my best in the absence.
Any questions for Mr. Oliver? I would just like to say Catherine Chadwick serves on this board, Dr. Jackson and Mr. Whitford as well. And Tabby, as you mentioned, is invaluable. She does a lot of the vetting. The money is just not handed out. And I cannot think of a better organization or board to handle these funds. Florence, it was amazing, putting roofs on people's houses, gas cards, food. I think we had some people lose their homes and the foundation was able to put them up. So if you are making any financial plans or gifts at the end of the year, this is just an amazing organization to give to. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? No questions. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Oliver, for always supporting our schools, not just with the foundation, but forever.
All right, Ms. Carswell, you're here, and you're here with Mr. Sapurik. And I just wanted to say that name, make sure I got it right. So, Adam, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Actually, today I'm presenting a draft of your financial statements, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that. As you may know, everybody is very anxious to get this year done with. So my next 2 or 3 first Tuesdays are very busy. So I, appreciate the chance to get in here early and go over a draft here. Aside from the date, there's only one real change that'll happen between this draft and the final draft, and I'll go over that completely and show you where that is. So our financial statements will end up being dated either tomorrow or Friday. This year's audit was a little different. We conducted our first half of our audit, the compliance part of our audit, off-site. It went well. The use of technology, Google Drives, our list of items requested was all available, and we were able to do our job off-site this spring. And then as things got back to as normal as possible under life as a pandemic, we came out in September and conducted the rest of the audit and completed the audit and the financial statements. Today, we're going to go over this draft that shows a clean, unmodified opinion letter. That's page 1 of these statements. At the bottom of page 1, it basically states that we believe these financial statements materially reflect the financial position and the results of operations for the Carteret County School System for the year ended June 30, 2020. So again, a clean, unmodified opinion letter. We've talked about this years now. The statements, in my opinion, really begin on page 14, Exhibit 3. To accountants, we love the first 2 exhibits. It's everything combined. There's no state public school fund anymore. There's no federal grants funds. There's no fund accounting versus full accrual accounting. It's all one, and that's exhibits 1 and 2, but it's very difficult to use those to really ascertain your financial position. Your financial position, your decisions are really based on the fund balance numbers, the funds themselves, exhibits 3 and 4, the balance sheet and income statement for those funds that excludes all of the accrual accounting adjustments for accrued leave, for pension benefits, for retirement health benefits, and really just gets down to what you have available to budget in future years. So exhibit 3 is a balance sheet. And your first column is your general fund. And the most important numbers here are the fund balance numbers at the bottom. Your ending fund balance for the year ended June 30, 2020 is $3.5 million in your general fund. The one change from this draft to the final will be the amount of subsequent years' expenditures. That amount is last year's amount. I guess you just approved a budget where you're appropriating $928,000 to be spent in 2021. So again, that's just an appropriation on next year's budget, but it does remove amounts from the unassigned piece. So as your assigned for subsequent expenditures goes up from 678 to 928, your unassigned number will go from 1.9 million to 1,711,000. So that's your ending unassigned fund balance as of June 30, 2020. That fund balance number is actually $1.3 million higher than it was a year ago, the total. With COVID-19, there was some savings that occurred, whether it be fuel, overtime, substitutes. There's also a shift from expenditures being paid out of local. We're actually paid out of Fund 8 this year. So when you look at the expenses paid in the other special revenue fund, which is your Fund 8, Fund 8 was created 10 years ago. It used to be a part of Fund 2. You separated your general appropriations from the county from all of the other revenues that you get, like indirect cost, other smaller state and federal grants, tuition and fees, E-rate money, Medicaid, all of that was moved over to Fund 8. So when you look at them, they really do still kind of act together in that they are both local funds, but one is general fund, one is a special revenue fund. By virtue of being a special revenue fund, you cannot have unassigned fund balance in a special revenue fund. So you only have one general fund and one assigned or one unassigned fund balance number. But when you look at them together, it paints a better picture of your total local fund balance. So if you look at page 16, I mentioned that you added $1.3 million of fund balance, and you can see that on Exhibit 4 at the bottom of the general fund. But if you go across and look at the other special revenue fund, you actually used $673,000 of that fund balance. Your expenses went from $2.9 million in that fund to 3.6. So there was a shift of some expenditures from general to special revenue, perfectly fine, but you really got to look at them together as a true sign of how much fund balance you added in the current year. So I don't want to be quoted as saying COVID allowed you to save $1.3 million, because it is not all COVID related. It is combined of COVID, probably planned savings already in place before COVID, and a shift of some expenditures over to Fund 8. Are there any questions about those two columns, those two exhibits? Those to me are probably the most important numbers, the most important funds to look at as far as fund balance goes. All right, you also have $10 million of fund balance in capital outlay, but $10 million has to be spent or sent back to DPI unless it's spent on Hurricane Florence repairs and maintenance. So a year ago, when Hurricane Florence hit, DPI sent out millions of dollars to 10 districts. You were one of them. And the idea of that money was, this is to fund any excess loss after FEMA and insurance on all your necessary repairs and replacements and whatever from the hurricane. So we're accounting for that money as restricted fund balance in capital outlay. Whatever you don't end up spending will eventually get sent back. I think the deadline on that is 5 years from now, but I've already got word from other districts about DPI wanting that money spent or paid back in the fairly near future. So any questions there?
Yeah, I think so. So Kathy, is this money allocated?
We will be appropriating that in the budget have, I think, 3 more projects that we're finalizing, Morehead Middle School with the Fulton Group and maybe Smyrna Group. And once those are finished, then we should have all our projects finished and we can send our funds back as well.
So those funds, the stipulations are, they have to be related to Hurricane Florence repairs or damages. And you have to exhaust all avenues of requesting insurance reimbursement and FEMA reimbursement. And so we're tracking the fund balance using the revenues from insurance and FEMA to offset these and the expenditures that go against them. So this $10.1 million, again, if you receive no more insurance or no more FEMA and you end up spending $5 million on allowable expenditures, you'll only have to send $5 million back. So, it would be in the best interest to obviously search and make sure that all of the damages are addressed as best as possible. I do think you will have to, before you can just keep the money for those repairs, you have to look at why didn't we request this as insurance money or FEMA? And in some cases, the insurance you may have settled and you're not going to get any more. So, like I said, I've gotten word that some districts are being contacted by individuals that they want you to start submitting invoices, and they're starting to look at how much money is left. I get the sense that they are leaning towards wanting you to spend it for repairs and maintenance related to Florence, but being sure that they are related to those repairs. So
Florence was 2 years ago, and we have to have this allocated or spent within 5 years.
Yes.
Which one?
Either. It has to be spent within 5 years. Which, in order to spend it, I don't know what you mean by allocated.
If we have to pay the invoices, job's got to be done, or do you just have to have the money marked for the project?
That's right. Yeah, there's the deadline for paying back, which is really 4 years from now, it was 5 years from when you received it. So you can't hold it past that 5-year mark. You'll have to send any unspent funds back.
And Kathy, I hate to put you on the spot, but I remember we had some issues with our insurance. Are we waiting on any more reimbursement from insurance, or?
No, we have finalized our insurance claim.
Okay.
So I have a question. Let's say that we exhaust all the resources and there's some residual that we have discovered that we really can't fit in that category of using it for a repair. All repairs are done.
Yep.
We send it back. Let's say $1 million's left, we send that back. And then later, like with this mold remediation, we discovered a defect that 2 years later that we're positive now was undiscoverable, but definitely in relation to Florence.
Yeah.
Can we then appeal for that? Money back?
I don't know the process for that. I would imagine what you'll have there is the insurance on the repairs. They'll have you if the repairs or the remediation was not sufficient, then I think there's an issue with the provider of those services that they would first expect you to go after them before they just start sending back the money. That would be a reason to hold it as long as possible, to allow some of those issues to arise within that 5-year window. Now 4 years.
So one more question then to follow up. Would using that money to do detailed diagnostic over and above what we've already done, would that be covered? So that, again, certainly we know for certain before it's sent back,
I've not had any district that has gone through the process of being audited by DPI in relation to is the expenditure allowable or not. So I can't say how wide of of a leniency they might provide in, is it only for repairs and replacements, or is it for analysis of unseen damage? I would guess it would be a little bit more lenient. You would have, access or allowability to make sure you don't have any unseen issues. But that would be definitely something to ask DPI before going and spending it, just, in case they disagree with that assessment. The rules around this money was 1 page long, so there's not a lot of detailed information about what is going to be allowable or not. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know, like I said, none of my clients have, and I don't think any of the 10 districts that got this money have actually gone through the process of paying it back yet, but some are close.
Thank you.
All right. You also have $1.2 million of fund balance at the individual schools. And then one of your bigger funds, or the biggest fund, the State Public School Fund and the Federal Grants Fund, they don't carry fund balance. But again, they are your largest source of revenues, which you can see on Exhibit 4.
Adam, I hate to interrupt you. Just to clarify that fund balance at the schools, that's building and grounds money that's been allocated by the schools, correct?
That's money actually in each individual school's accounts, whether it be money from ice cream socials to buildings and grounds to trips. I mean, all of that money that runs through the school collected by the bookkeepers. And that will range anywhere from $30,000 to $100 and something thousand per school, depending on the size of the school usually. But combined, it's $1.3 million. Again, at Exhibit 4, your biggest source of funds, your State Public School Fund, $52 million in revenue. You received $23.6 million from the county, $3 million in revenues in the other special revenue fund, which again used to be included in that general fund, local fund sources. Made up of, you can see a lot of state funds, some federal money in there, and then a lot of other miscellaneous items. The fund balance in the capital outlay went up $2.6 million this year. And that was just due to the timing of the receipt of insurance and FEMA money. So you really don't have much fund balance in capital outlay. It's $100,000. So you added $2.6 million this year, but it's all restricted to go back to DPI if it goes unspent. So that $2.6 million is really insurance proceeds and FEMA proceeds in the current year. So it had to be offset against the money you had originally spent. And so your restricted fund balance went from 7.6 million to 10.2 million. So. All right. The other fund I like to go over, page 22, Exhibit 7, your School Food Service Fund. And this fund has had a lot going on in the last 2 years, thanks to Florence, thanks to COVID. And so there's some significant movement and differences or changes in revenues and fund balance this year. First thing I want to point out is the cash on hand, top of Exhibit 7, $1,658,000. That compares to $1,262,000 last year, which is an increase of $395,000. So all in all, that's a positive year. It's hard to look at this fund and look at fund balance to know whether they had a good year or a bad year. All of those nerdy accounting adjustments actually run through this fund. So there's $500,000 worth of pension and OPEB and depreciation expenses in this fund. These are non-cash expenses. They're simply run through the fund to adjust the the pension liability and the retirement health liabilities, the portion of the payroll related to child nutrition gets allocated to this fund. So you're looking at a negative fund balance of $1.3 million, but you have $1.6 million of cash on hand. So there's a disconnect between fund balance and financial health. And so we look at more of how much cash do you have on hand and how much operating revenue and operating net income you had. And there's a schedule in the back that shows that better on page 62. So the exhibits 7 and 8, they're on a full accrual accounting premise, whereas back here on page 62, it's modified accrual. So it backs out all of these strange adjustments that aren't really affecting the true bottom line and true operations of the year for this fund. So 2/3 of the way down, before you get into these reconciling items, there's a line called excess of revenues and other sources over expenditures. That totals $563,000. So to me, that is the operating profit of the Child Nutrition Fund this year, $563,000. And we see that equates to a $400,000 increase in cash. So that those two are more in line than what fund balance says. So it was a very profitable year for the Child Nutrition Fund, but I will point out that they received $507,000 of federal funds from COVID and $132,000 of state COVID funds. So that $639,000 obviously helped them add to fund balance. Those funds were specifically assigned to child nutrition, and they help maintain the lost revenue associated with not having kids in school. As soon as COVID hit, you were moved over to a summer feeding pricing model, allowing you to deliver meals or have meals picked up. And the more of those meals you could provide helped offset the fact that those employees were still being paid. But to the tune that revenues dropped, you were able to use state and federal funds to make up for that difference. When you look at this schedule a year ago, you actually had $900,000 of food sales versus $448,000 this year. But your federal reimbursements, which is in the middle of the page, were only $2.4 million compared to $4.1 million this year. So last year, or 2 years ago, the 18-19 year, obviously Hurricane Florence put a damper on serving meals. You saw a large decline in your federal reimbursements. This year, COVID hits. You're not able to serve kids in the cafeterias for 4 months out of the year, or 3.5, but you are able to provide summer feeding meals, delivered meals or picked up meals. So that helped keep the federal reimbursement dollars coming in to help fund the expenditures in that fund. Is there any questions about that? Again, it's a lot going on across that fund over the last 2 years, but adding $400,000 of cash is a significant amount of cash, but it does go towards maintaining that fund into the 2021 year, because those state and federal funds aren't going to be repeating. So that cash buildup, $400,000 this year, could be used in the next few months, depending on your expenses versus revenues in this part of the year. So I have not looked at your revenues and expenditures yet for this year, but I imagine, like a lot of districts, it's a struggle to maintain profitability while operating a summer feeding program or a Plan B scenario where kids are only around for 2 days each, or even 4 days with a cleaning day, whatever your plan B option is, it's very difficult to serve the same number of meals that you were serving before all this happened. So looking at how much expenditures are over revenues on a monthly basis will give you an idea of how long you can maintain this level of participation, so to speak.
And Adam, and I apologize if you've said this, but does that amount trigger a spend down plan? We've had to do that in the past.
Your expenditures of $4.4 million would be, your 3 months would probably be around 2. So you are getting close to what would be requiring a spend down plan, but that spend down plan is basically one word: COVID. I mean, there's every district we've been at this year added fund balance to their general funds. The difference is whether they added cash or fund balance, so to speak, in child nutrition. We saw a variety of plans being put into place. I was at a district this week that served $2 million worth of summer feeding money to 4,000 kids. And the week before that, I was at a district with 18,000 kids that only served $500,000 of summer feeding. So that disparity between how aggressive you were in providing meals helped maintain your fund or not. So obviously the districts that did not engage in an aggressive summer feeding program saw drastic declines in cash to the point where they'll be out of cash by Christmas. So if this amount did trigger a spend down plan, child nutrition wasn't major this year, so we didn't do that calculation. But if it did, the spend down plan is basically these funds will be used because of COVID. And they're the result of state and federal funding that are non-recurring. So,
how does that affect our bond that just got passed without the tax increase as well? Any of that fund balance will be used, can be used?
The Child Nutrition Fund is considered federal funds because they do receive such large federal reimbursements. And so those federal funds are restricted for only usage in the Child Nutrition Fund for serving meals. So the fund balance in your Child Nutrition Fund won't affect anything with your bonds, and even the fund balance in your local.
Anything in our bond that matches, that can be associated with it, it can't be pulled in, is what I mean. Like, so if there's something that we're doing that can affect child nutrition, you can't use that money with that portion.
So the bonds are passed, I imagine, at the county level. So they're really the county bonds. Right. They'll be used to provide construction projects for the school system. And some of those construction projects might include purchasing a new cafeteria, renovating a cafeteria, and there'll be equipment purchased. So I'm not sure what what bond projects you have, but if they do involve anything related to the cafeteria in the form of equipment, so the cafeteria, the shell, the building, the room belongs to the school system, belongs to the general local, your general fixed assets, but any equipment within inside that kitchen can be purchased with bond money, and it comes into the Child Nutrition Fund as contributed capital. So basically, if you renovate a kitchen and buy $150,000 worth of new kitchen equipment, the Child Nutrition Fund will recognize a revenue and a fixed asset for these $150,000 worth of equipment that they then depreciate over 12 years.
But at the end of the school year, whatever money still being left over, that gets taken back by those governments, the federal government and the states.
If we don't spend it down.
Only the hurricane funds. The funds here in child nutrition, the federal PRC 125, the $507,000 of COVID money, along with the $132,000 of state supplement money for COVID. Those will not be pulled down unless they were spent outside of accordance with the restrictions on that money. And that money is restricted basically one of two ways: had to be used on an expenditure between March 16th and June 30th. And on the federal side, it could not be used to replace revenues or to pay off expenditures that were reimbursed from other federal sources. What that means is you could not operate at a profit between March 16th and June 30th, because then they think that that's essentially you getting free money into that fund. That calculation is a little weird. It's not just profit, it's cash flow profit. So by virtue of having a receivable, you weren't technically profitable in that 3-month period because you have a $276,000 outstanding receivable in that fund at the end of the year. So that's immediately a $300,000 loss because, again, they look at it as on a cash flow basis. So yes, if you use too much COVID money and made too much money in that COVID time period, you would have concerns about being audited by DPI and then pulling some of those COVID funds back. But as they stand right now, you did not operate in a profit in that 3.5-month window, and all of those expenditures were either related to COVID directly or in the March 16th to June 30 timeframe. So they're all allowable based on our audit. So the only funds that that you'll have to send back would be the hurricane money, and then state and federal allotments. Those are use it or lose it allotments. That's not them pulling the money back. It's just lost revenues if you don't use those state and federal funds in the allotted time. All right. So after that, there's a lot of footnotes going over your accounting policies, a little bit more detail on your various receivables, payables, your fixed assets. Then as I started the presentation, I told you about the first part of our audit, which is the compliance piece. There's actually 3 letters at the back that start on page 63 that are basically our opinion letters over internal controls, over financial reporting, your adherence to federal requirements on your federal major programs, and your adherence to state requirements on your state major programs. So those are the 3 letters. Basically, they say, we believe you spent your federal and state dollars that we audited as major in accordance with those grants. This year, we audited the EC department, the special revenue, or the special education cluster, and those federal coronavirus funds, the PRC 125 funds, the $507,000. And on the state side, we audited the state public school fund, which we have to do every year because it represents 90% of your, or 85% of your funding, and your yellow buses, your DPI buses that you get from DPI for free that are basically a state program. So again, noting no material weaknesses in internal controls, no question cost in state or federal funding, and no findings. Are there any questions about any of these letters or anything in general at all? Like I said, everywhere we've gone, we've seen fund balance added, and that number's ranged anywhere from $150,000 to $10 million in 1 year. There were some savings, again, related to fuel usage, substitute pay, some overtime pay. But the future and the long-term impact of this coronavirus pandemic and its effect on operations, and not knowing what another stimulus package might look like, I think it's in every district's best interest to have added fund balance this year, because it's potentially a long unknown future.
Any questions for Adam? Is there a motion to approve the audit report as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Day. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Ehlers. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Great. Adam, we recognize that we're your favorite school district, and we also recognize that's probably because of Ms. Carswell, too.
That's right.
We really appreciate you coming and making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
And I appreciate their time. This is, I've been coming out now 8 years. So after that, well, even if you weren't my favorite to start out with, you eventually grew on me.
That's
so,
right.
I do appreciate all of their help and all of you over the years. So
I used to get nervous seeing you, but now I actually enjoy it. So yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
safe
it.
travels.
Thank you. All right.
And we're gonna please excuse Mr. Day. He's got a pre-planned event he cannot miss, so he's not being rude. He's got a previous engagement. Ms. Carswell, budget revision number 3.
Budget revision number 3 contains revision for the state fund, federal fund, and the capital fund. In looking at the state fund, we appropriated $4,000 to the transportation budget, funds we received from DPI. The second one is we appropriated the funds for the 4 SROs that we received for Broad Creek, Moorhead Primary, that says Moorhead Middle, but that should be Moorhead Elementary, and Newport Middle, and the amount of $133,332. We appropriate funds received for the CTE grade expansion for $49,500. We appropriated funds we received for the principal growth bonus that was paid out in October. We received the funds for May to July interest for our technology. We received $29,811 for school internet connectivity. We received funds for August and September substitutes, and we received an additional allotment of funds for EC COVID supplies and materials. And that was a total of $319,346, a budget amendment to our state fund. Our federal funds, we appropriated funds that we received for a homeless grant in the amount of $60,000. And then the capital is the hurricane funds that Adam was talking about earlier. This is, we're appropriating our carryover funds in the amount of $10,165,574.
Maybe 10 million.
Did I say 10 million?
Yes, ma'am.
10 million, sorry, 10,165,574.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's the budget revision number 3. Any questions?
If there,
Sorry. The school bus, the money there for transportation. So that's been paid to us in December of this school year, or is it going to continue into next year?
That it'll continue into next year. It went into the transportation allotment. So we added 4,000 to the amount that we can spend.
And that was with now, the buses that we bought, is that included in this revision of the budget?
No, and what, instead of buying buses, the state's leasing buses. And so we don't actually have any fund transfers there. So we do record on our books the lease payments that the state makes on our behalf. But that's the lease payments for the yellow buses.
Okay, so we're not having to buy buses like we used to anymore.
We have to buy activity buses, but we do not have to purchase yellow buses. It's a lease program that the state started probably 10, 15 years ago.
Okay. So when that bus is taken off the road, the state is going to claim that bus to sell at a state's surplus type thing, right?
Correct, because the state's the one who actually owns the yellow vehicles.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the budget revision number 3.
Motion by Ms. Wheatley to approve the budget revision. Is there a second?
I will second that, Mr. Chair.
Second by Mr. Jenkins. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Carswell, thank you so much for all the work that you do for the system.
Thank you.
All right, facilities update, Mr. Paylor.
Good evening. We don't have any new projects going on. Just to give you an update from the last time, Beaufort Middle School and Moorhead Middle School are painting projects are virtually done. The buildings themselves are completely done. There's some very minor parking lot striping projects going on, so they're over 99% complete. Our athletic facilities, the HVAC projects for the athletic facilities, Croatan High School is complete. East Carter and West Carter, the equipment is in place and the electrician will be there. We're told before the end of the week to finish those projects up. And after that, there will just be some cosmetic work by our internal guys, painting, some sheetrock work and those types of things. So we're hoping that those buildings will be complete in the next couple of weeks. And I've talked to you about the White Oak Elementary School cafeteria air conditioning unit. It is on order. We heard this week that we're hoping it'll be here soon. And we're moving to get things in place to where if it does arrive in time, that we can get that project complete over the winter break.
Wow.
Any questions?
So you're saying now that as far as the 3 facilities that sell products at the 3 high schools, the air conditioning and all that is in place to be ready to start so when they open those buildings up, they ain't got to worry about all the.
That is correct. So this winter will be the first winter ever to where we don't have to winterize the bathrooms in those athletic buildings. So the buildings will be operational year round now.
So not having to worry about turning off the water and all that like that.
That's correct. Yes, sir. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Paylor. Dr. Jackson.
Good evening again, board members. First, please allow me to thank you for your interaction earlier this afternoon with representatives of each school's advisory council. I appreciate your ongoing commitment to work in deep partnership with parents and the community. I'd like to thank our teachers that we were able to be in their presence this evening. It certainly hit me in the heart in a deep and meaningful way as I heard our students making music and as I look behind members of our board to see their art. And I very much appreciate, and I know our community does and our students do, the commitment of this Board of Education and previous boards to the arts in Carteret County Public Schools. And so I do appreciate Ms. Olander, Ms. Swanger, Mr. Self, and Ms. Morris and their students for being a part of this evening's report on fine arts. I certainly want to highlight Mr. Everett, the units you've seen certainly have made a difference in being able to offer music classes in our schools during the pandemic. He did not mention that the protocols that the arts teachers under his leadership this summer wrote have been widely distributed across the state, and many, if not most, and maybe all school systems are using Carteret County Public Schools arts protocols for safety and wellness, and that was the work of this summer. And because of that work, we were able to experience the music and the sounds we heard tonight. And so I'm very grateful for all of our art teachers. Yesterday, the voters of Carteret County overwhelmingly endorsed the school bond referendum. We're grateful and truly appreciate that support. The favorable vote is due to the hard work of many, including each of you. So many of our employees joined you in sharing the needs of the schools they serve in and the needs across our school system with others, and that resulted in the favorable vote. I also want to thank the members of the grassroots group called Carteret Citizens Advocating Responsible Spending, who worked with many of the members of our parent advisory councils in sharing information. I certainly appreciate the businesses who posted messages on their outside signs and residents who placed signs along the roadways and all those who worked so very hard on this bond referendum. This was truly a group effort and the results show it. Board members, as you know, November 11th is the Veterans Day holiday, and it is a holiday for our school system. I certainly want to thank the many veterans on our board and throughout our school system who serve and continue to serve the children of Carteret County as employees in our school system. We certainly appreciate all who serve in the military and in military-connected families. Our governor has declared the month of November as Career Development Month, and November 18th is Career Development Coordinator Day. Our career development coordinators work closely alongside our career and technical education teachers to ensure that our CTE programs meet and exceed national standards. We know that through our CTE courses that students gain the critical thinking, creativity, problem solving, leadership, and essential employability skills necessary to thrive in the world and to contribute to the vitality of our state and nation. Board members, I'd just like to especially thank the men and women who faithfully serve in our school system for their dedication and consistent application of and adherence to the health and wellness safety protocols in each of our schools. We continue to faithfully follow every guideline from the state. Because of their diligence, last week we had the fewest number of school-affected cases in the school system since the first week of school. Information about cases and communication protocols continues to be available on the school system website. On this past Sunday, we celebrated the 161st anniversary of the initial lighting of the Cape Lookout Lighthouse. On that day, November 1st, 1859, lightkeeper John Royal lit the lighthouse lamp for the very first time. The lighthouse continues to guide mariners to safe harbor to this day. Like our lighthouse, the adopted symbol of our school system, our teachers, administrators, and staff are tending the light issuing from our classrooms and our schools. They're guiding our students to safe harbor, and I truly appreciate the light keepers of Carteret County Public Schools. Finally, please allow me to add a special thanks to Mrs. Ehlers and Mr. Godwin for all that they have done for so many over the course of their tenure serving on this board. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Day, who had to step away on his reelection, and look forward to welcoming Mrs. Statler and Reverend Goodwin to the board next month. Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, we have been, we are, and we will remain Carteret strong. And this concludes my comments this evening, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. And we've actually changed a little bit of the format for our board comments. Typically what happens is we end up repeating almost everything Dr. Jackson says, and we end up repeating everything each of us have said. I certainly want everybody to make any kind of comments they want. So instead of calling you by name, if there's anybody that would like to make some comments, please do so now.
So I want to wish my mother a happy 80th birthday today. I'm sorry once again, yes, but that's been something that I meant to say during the comments.
Would you like to sing?
Yes.
You would?
No, no. But I'm sorry, but Craig, that was an exceptional presentation. I agree that one of the most beautiful statements that came out in your presentation was that children really need to be taught love. And I think art and music, it's a way to see the world and get that curiosity going in their mind and express themselves. And we know that they need every outlet today for mental health and arts. So again, I can't thank you enough, but for the main goal of keeping them safe no matter what. This is a very impressive display tonight. Thank you for that. And also, I just wanted to congratulate our new board members. Katie, I'm so proud of you. I know you're going to do an excellent job. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Goodwin, but I know he's going to do a great job. I've heard wonderful things about him. So wish everyone the best. And I just want to say, if I could give a word of advice to all of you, and you may hear it down the road, the same thing, is just use your power for good and don't waste the podium. It's a very powerful position and very impactful, but it'll only come back 1,000-fold to you and all the good things that you get to see your time do here. Best of luck to you.
Thank you, Melissa. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to say during Principals Month, I went to every school and gave the women principals roses and a card, and I gave the men a card and candy to show how they are well respected as principals and leaders of our school system. And I think I surprised most of them because they weren't expecting to get flowers and a car. Ms. Zimmerano, she hugged me real tight and was real appreciative of it. Ms. Jenny Bell was also the same. It was one of the things I appreciated doing to let them know how well they do a great job and are appreciated by the school board. And I'd like to say also that I hope every one of you enjoyed your little shells that I gave you as part of the early present to give to you to remind you of the C, because you're supposed to be able to put it up to your ear and hear the C sound inside of it. So I hope that's what you all will do with that. And of course, Veterans Day is coming up. I hope everyone has a great Veterans Day with the people that are still teaching and are associated with Veterans Day. Are Mr. Jackson, he is also a veteran, a Navy veteran. And so congratulations for Veterans Day on the 11th. We appreciate that. And the last thing I'll say is what Douglas MacArthur said in one of his history speeches. Old board members never die. We just fade away. And I'll slowly fade away into the distance, but I'll still be around. Hopefully, you know, anybody needs help or advice or anything, because I do appreciate going out there and helping anybody that needs it, especially in the teaching field. I'm setting up a scholarship from some of my money that I've set aside for a student that wants to go to Pembroke State and take up education. They will get a full one-year scholarship.
That's wonderful.
To go to Pembroke, and I hope, you know, people will take advantage of that, because it's one of the great things in education, you know, and so the money I've set aside, I'll put it for that position. So I appreciate each and every one of you. Congratulations to the new people that are coming in too for the board position. So hope all goes well, and keep up. One thing I want to say, you know, we need hands-on stuff in the high school. We need those vocational courses. Y'all have got to keep pressing for vocational classes. We need electronics. We need carpentry. We need masonry, auto mechanics, vocational FFA, and all. Those are courses that are really, jobs are out there just waiting for them. And we need to get those back in the high schools. But please, keep working on that and trying to get those back in the schools so that we can do that. And with that, I'll say good day and good night, and everybody have a good Thanksgiving and Christmas too.
Good. Thank you, Jake. Any other comments? My comments will be extremely brief, but on behalf of the entire board, we want to thank the citizens of Carteret County for approving the bond. And again, that will be part of your legacy and all of your legacies going forward. So thank you for that. And I'm not going to repeat all the congratulations to Finance and Arts tonight, but we appreciate you being here. Our next scheduled meeting is December 1st at 6 p.m. And the last piece of business before we officially cut you two loose, I think we have a closed session. Please.
Mr. Chair, I move to convene in closed session pursuant to GS 143-318-11A6 to consider confidential personnel matters, and pursuant to GS 143-318-11A3 to consider confidential attorney-client communications.
Motion by Mr. Jenkins. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Wheatley. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous, and we are in closed session. Thank you.